be doing the no disclaimer book tag. This was created by Catalyst Reads, and I wasn't tagged by anyone, but I've seen a few people do it, and it seems like a really fun book tag to do, so I decided I would give it a shot. So there are just a few questions, and let's just get into the video. The first question is, which trope or tropes in books annoy you the most? And for this one, I have to go with The Chosen One. I think that this trope isn't a bad trope necessarily, but it's been so overdone to the point where it's just annoying. And I think there's different variations. Obviously Harry Potter, one of my favorite books, is the Chosen One trope, and I have a lot of other books that are Chosen One tropes that I enjoy, but I think sometimes it just gets pushed too much, and it's I'm this chosen one, but I don't realize I'm this chosen one, and I am perfect in all that I do, but I don't realize that I'm perfect, and I'm desirable by all these other characters, but am clueless to how desirable and perfect that I am. And those are the characters and the tropes that I really just cannot stand. So I think I do like Chosen One tropes, but just when they take it to the extreme, I really don't like that, because it just, I don't know, it just bothers me. I just have a problem with this trope when it's overdone so much. The second question is, which writer or writers do you feel are overhyped or overrated? And for this one, I have to say John Green. I know a lot of people on BookTube and a lot of readers really enjoy his stories. There are a lot of other overrated authors that I feel are overrated, but I can't really definitively say that because I haven't actually read any of their works. Like Sarah J. Maas, I don't intend to ever read any of her work, so I'll never be able to justify if I think she's overrated or not. But just the stuff that I've heard about her stories don't really interest me, and but I have read some of John Green's work, and I just don't find his writing to be all that amazing. I think he's fine. He's not a bad writer in any way, but it's not some revolutionary or awe-inspiring work that a lot of people describe it as being. So yeah, I just think he's a little overhyped. The third question is, what are some of your least favorite books you've read since being on BookTube? And for this, I have to say, Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl, I absolutely hated that story. I think the representation was really poorly done, especially the black character. I can't remember his name, but it's stereotypical. I don't think this story has much merit to it. The main character wasn't, I don't think he's intentionally supposed to be a likable character, but he wasn't interesting in any way, and I didn't really enjoy him, and I just really did not like that story at all. I also would have to say The Bird and the Sword I think this is by Amy Harmon. I did a recent video of my least favorite books of 2017, and this book was on that video. There's just a lot of there's not any actual abuse in the book, but the main male character does threaten to abuse the love interest, and it's never really talked about as this is wrong in any way, and I did not really go well with that. And the plot was kind of lacking. It was really mainly about this romance, which I don't necessarily find bad, because romance is a genre that people enjoy, but I don't think that's what I was expecting when I was coming into the story. I was expecting it to be fantasy with a hint of romance, and it was more romance in a fantasy setting. So yeah, just not my cup of tea. The fourth question is, a terrible ending that ruined an otherwise quality book. And for this one, I have to go with Pull Me Under by Kelly Luce. I talked a little bit about this book in my December wrap-up, but this story was okay, and I think the character development was good, and it's a slow-paced story, but that didn't really bother me, and I thought it had a lot of potential going into it, and I didn't think it was necessarily the best story in the world, but I really was enjoying it, and then the end just kind of really fell short for me. There was really no sense of conclusion to the story, which isn't always bad, but I wanted a more satisfying ending, and I didn't feel it seemed to come too abruptly. The ending we were so meandering throughout the rest of the story and going through this slow process of her like coming to terms with herself. And if you want to know more about the book, I'll put up my December wrap up, but it's just a little too much complicated to get into. But the story, we were coming into terms with who she was becoming, and then it kind of just abruptly ends without any like inclination on what's gonna happen next. And I kind of wished there was more about what was gonna happen to her and her family. So yeah, I just think it was kind of more of a letdown because of the ending, and I think it would have been a better book had the ending been more satisfying. The fifth question is, which fictional characters did you wish didn't get killed off? And for this, I have to say basically everyone in the Broken Earth trilogy. Like, I was so upset when Alabaster died, and also Shaka, and so there's just like literally everyone in that series. I was really upset. Not that I like feel like they didn't need to die, but I was definitely really upset when they did die. Number 6 is, what is some of your bookish pet peeves? And for this one, I have to say, like, books that have like really stunning covers, but the content inside them is not really good. And I think that's pretty, like, it's subjective, but like I really hate when like booksellers, they know that the book isn't that great, so they try to put this beautiful cover on it to make you more interested in reading it. And that really bothers me because I love being able to like have really good books that also have really beautiful covers, because that does what's inside the book justice on what's outside of the book. And I feel like that's not really the case. Usually like really good thought-provoking books don't always have the best covers. They tend to be a little on the plain or boring side, whereas like I guess it traditionally, like even in just general, like more the popular books tend to get like better looking covers, and they're not necessarily better in content. And I hate that because like I'm always driven, I'm so like motivated by book covers, so I'll pick up a book because I like the cover, or even if it has like a really striking title. I really am not interested in the plot, but I'm like, this cover, and so I pick it up even though despite my lack of interest in the plot, and it ends up being a really bad book and I'm just not interested in the plot. So I don't know, that's me personally. I just don't like when bad books have good covers, but I guess that's like subjective, so there's no way like anyone could ever solve that issue. But yeah. Number 7 is, what are some of the books you think deserve more recognition? And I'm thinking about doing a book video about this, a separate video about this, because there's a lot of books that I have that I think I did do like an underrated book series where I had like 2 videos in that series where I did like short story collections. So I might bring that back this year. I have a lot of books, but I will mention probably like 3 of them that I think are underrated. The first one is And Again. I can't remember who wrote the book, but I will put the title and the author's name on the screen. But this book is just amazing. It's about like these 4 characters that all have terminal illnesses, and they're given a second chance by having their bodies cloned, and then their like brains and basically all their memories transported into this clone of themselves. It brings up a lot of themes about what would happen when we get a second chance. Are we going to change? Is our behavior going to be different? Are we going to be led down a different path because we were able to get this second chance? And also a little bit about on the medical side of like what this would be like. If we were able to clone ourselves and make new copies of ourselves, would we still be able to keep our same talents and different interests? Because one of the girls in the book is an artist, and she kind of goes through the struggle where, because she is now this clone, she doesn't have the ability to paint as well as she used to. So I think it's just an amazing book, and I really, really love it, and I think more people should read it. I don't know a lot of people that talked about it on BookTube, and I think it's a good book for a lot of different people because it's a combination of a lot of different genres. It's not, I wouldn't say it's like science fiction necessarily, because it doesn't really get into the science or how the doctors were able to clone people and then like transfer their memories into this clone body. But I think it does talk a lot about the human nature, and I think it's an accessible read that anybody would be able to get into. And the second one is The Last Days of Magic by Mark Tompkins. This book is just amazing, and I hope that one day it'll be like petitioned for a movie or a TV series, because I think it would translate really good on the screen. But it's basically about Celtic fairy tales and like this fairy queen that is basically there to help bridge the gap between people with the non-magical powers and then all these magical creatures. There's different like wars going on, and they're all fighting to kind of destroy magic. It dips into historical fiction a little bit with also a mix of fantasy, and I think it's a really spectacular book, and I hope that Mark Tompkins ever does write another book, because I think his writing is genius. But this is the only book he's written, and I absolutely loved it. The last book I want to talk about is called Black Chalk. I also can't remember the author's name, but I'll put it down in the screen. But this is like a weird book about these college students that are playing like this game that's based on dares and challenges. Then one of them dies, and you're like throughout the book you're trying to figure out which of the characters dies. And then there's also one of the characters has grown up and kind of is like this recluse, and he's telling the story of what's happened, and he's like he's one of the last people to be in this game, and there's another person in the game, and they are kind of like, he is telling the story and reminiscing about his time in college, because the game has to eventually end and he has to compete with this guy, but he doesn't really want to, so he's been in hiding for all this time. And it's a really crazy plot, but I really enjoyed it. I think the characters were really fleshed out and complex, and it was just like eerie in a way, but not like scary, creepy. It was just a really good book. I think a lot of people would enjoy it. And the last question is, what are your thoughts on censorship and banning books? And I think that banning books is just wrong in so many different reasons, and in a way it goes against our First Amendment and the freedom of speech, because we're preventing people from getting access to these books and learning about things that don't necessarily harm people in any way. And I just think it's wrong to be banning books, especially in educational situations, because it's all about seeing people's different perspectives, even if it's not necessarily something you agree with and it's completely wrong morally. It's interesting to look at those perspectives and see how people come to those ideas and where they're coming from, because it's a great way to be able to learn how to communicate with others if you can successfully talk about books that you disagree with and books that you enjoy. And I think it's a great way to develop those communication skills and develop the skill to be able to listen to other perspectives and kind of like not eloquently argue, but have conversation. Like, I think banning books eliminates people's stories, and that's always wrong, especially when the way books are banned, there's no real logic to it, and you're hiding the past a lot of the times, and you're hiding parts of history and reality. And I disagree with it completely, and I think that it doesn't really give people the opportunity to come to their own values and their own decisions. And by preventing people from reading certain books, that's kind of, it's just wrong in my opinion, and I just dislike it completely. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I really had fun doing the no disclaimers book tag, and I will tag a few people, so I'll put their names down below along with all the questions for this tag. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you really liked this tag, please give my video a thumbs up, and I will see you guys next week. Thanks, bye!